Halo Infinite will no longer be doing seasons according to 343, and this to me communicates a lot about the future of the game as well as what they will likely have planned for the Halo franchise. For a while now, I have said that Halo Infinite was just too far gone to really turn things around, and that does not take away from the good seasons that they have had recently, and it certainly does not take away from the positive response from the players. But the player count and the standing just never really has recovered from the poor launch and the lack of support. But I have theorized they could use Halo Infinite as a great testing ground for the next game. And with the rumors about the next game maybe even switching to Unreal Engine, this could be a great combination. You would basically continue to keep Halo Infinite going with a smaller team of support, almost like a live team, and then have other teams, as well as 343, shifting their work and their focus onto a new game. We have seen this with other titles. I've consistently thought that that is what The Division is currently doing with The Division 2, and we know that even things like happened with Destiny near the end of its life cycle heavily influenced a lot of the updates they ended up making later on in Destiny 2 when it was in bad shape. So Halo Infinite could continue on getting smaller updates while they build the next game, and that could really benefit the input and the player feedback. So if you like this content, I want to look at what they said. I've got Insider Gaming. I've got an opinion piece from PC Games about how this is probably for the best. And if you do like this content, hit subscribe and the bell button. That way you don't miss my content. So first, I'm going to pull up Insider Gaming because I want to see and read with you exactly what is being said. So recently, 343 Industries explained that there will be no more seasons in Halo Infinite. Instead, the game will pivot to a schedule of back-to-basics content update called Operations, which will kick off on January the 30th. They'll be much smaller than the traditional seasonal-based model, but they'll drop every 4 to 6 weeks. So the cadence is a little bit faster. So this is going to maybe keep people a little bit more engaged, given that they are going to be coming in quicker iterations. Now, we don't know if that's going to continue to allow you to get, I don't know, some of the story short scenes that we saw. Probably not. Battle Pass updates and things like that will likely be slightly different because of this, but that increased cadence might help with people feeling like it's worth coming back to play through the most recent update, even though it's not a seasonal update. And it says here, there's reportedly a dedicated team still working on Halo Infinite, but 343 Industries is moving on to new things as per the recent community stream. And this is what they said. They said that we also have additional teams now accelerating towards the future, working on brand new projects. We are also growing and have exciting things for the future. Now, this obviously has a lot of questions that I'm going to talk about in just a second, because now you're talking about the future, you're talking about other teams, you're talking about other projects. Well, what does that mean for Halo Infinite? Well, I believe what they're basically saying without saying is that Halo Infinite is headed toward end of life. This is essentially sort of the end of a game, the end of an era, when you put it on what feels essentially like life support. And I don't say that in a mean way. It's just clear they're going to scale back how much time investment, how much bandwidth, and how many people are working on the game. And then the report continues here, and it says, it took a while, but Halo Infinite finally became the shooter that everyone was asking for when it was released in 2021. It might be too little too late for some, but there's still a core community competing regularly on that title that is more than happy with the state of the game right now. And I think that's one of the bummers about this, is that people really did respond to the recent seasonal updates, and they were having fun, and the new modes, and people were really enjoying it. Now, I enjoyed the game when it first came out. A lot of people have thought that I just hate Halo or hate Xbox. We covered that game for about a month, and every Friday night we did community game nights, we did custom games. We had a lot of fun with Halo. I've always said that there's just something special about Halo, and I thought that Joseph Staten coming on board was really going to help things along. But when you look at what they're saying with additional teams, I really have to ask the question, well, who would those additional teams be? Now, my producer thinks that Sledgehammer has been brought on board to help, and he doesn't know anything. He's not heard rumors. He has no insight into this. This has just always been something that he has said. Like, after Microsoft got Activision Blizzard, he thought, well, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to slide Sledgehammer over to Halo. They don't need them on Call of Duty anymore, right? So it was just a guess of what they might do with somebody coming over and assisting. And in that vein, I have always said that id Software should help reboot Halo. Okay, I've gotten tons of pushback on this. People do not think that Halo needs a reboot, right? The hardcore fans are like, absolutely, it doesn't need to reboot. They will regularly point to Halo 5 and say, well, that was the attempt to kind of soft reboot the game and really evolve how Halo feels. Now, I continue to say that Halo 5 was a half measure, and it landed pretty lukewarm with everybody. They were trying to appeal to new players. New players didn't really care because it still very much felt like Halo and looked like Halo. Weapons, enemies, a lot of it was very similar. And then longtime fans were obviously very irritated at the lack of Master Chief, and the movement changes just rubbed everybody the wrong way. I would like them to go significantly further than that. I think continuing to make a Halo that just looks and feels like Halo is only going to appeal to that loyal core. And I have to think after all these years, that core is just going to continue to shrink, and you'd like to appeal to a larger base and essentially do a reboot, honor the past, but do something fresh and new, kind of like what they did with Doom. I'm not saying Halo needs to look and feel like Doom, but the spirit of what id Software did with Doom, I think they need to bring that to Halo. But beyond just potential Microsoft-owned studios that could be helping, well, what about the next game, right? The most recent rumors were that the next Halo would be switching to the Unreal Engine. And it was going to sort of dovetail with the rumors that the Halo Battle Royale that was being built by Certain Affinity would launch alongside of it. Well, recently it was reported that the Battle Royale has been canceled. Now, I have my own theory that Certain Affinity is still working on something, since prior to the insiders claiming that it had been canceled, it was reported that the project had evolved beyond a Battle Royale. So it's probably factual to say that the Halo Battle Royale was canceled, since the idea has been shelved in light of something different. If it evolved beyond just a BR, I would imagine they were building something that they thought, listen, this could go longer, be larger, and just be significantly more substantive than just another Battle Royale. I also think the Battle Royale bubble has kind of burst in that there's only a couple of major players. People are now trying to move on to extraction shooters. I believe they're going to oversaturate the market with extraction shooters in the next couple of years, and people are going to get tired of that as well. So if you're wanting to carve out something new with Halo, with whatever Certain Affinity has built, it would need to be fresh. It would need to be a fresh take on PvE or PvP or some sort of combination of both. Now, what this could mean, though, is that when 343 says other teams are helping and they have future plans, well, Certain Affinity then could be involved. No matter how you shake it, it appears that Halo Infinite is on the runway and headed to end of life. And I know that's probably upsetting for some people, because it sort of feels like they just finally got on a good track record and they got some good seasons out. And I continue to tell people, I said, listen, I know you're enjoying it right now, but you have to see there is no longevity. There is no future for Halo Infinite. And that wasn't hate. That was just sort of staring at everything honestly. I didn't see how they would be able to get a bunch of people to come back to feed the player funnel, to feed the monetization structures, to justify continued investment in the game. We know from emails with Phil Spencer that they want a good number of monthly active users on a live service game if they're going to continue to support it. And there's no way Halo Infinite is hitting those numbers any longer. I don't know if they even ever came close to it because of the way that it launched. What this does mean, though, is that a new Halo is likely on the way. And PCGamesN.com thinks that this is for the best. They said in their headline for their article that this is probably for the best, or this is for the best. That's just basically their opinion. And in their article, they have an ending section, and this is what they say in the ending section. This news was going to come at some point, and while I'm incredibly glad that 343 isn't giving up on Halo Infinite, the team needs a fresh start. Infinite has always had the bones of a great game, and since the launch of 2021, 343 has built and built on a Halo game that is nothing short of superb. We just need to move on. So this is somebody that actually has, a high opinion of Halo Infinite. They're saying, like, listen, they've built a lot. It's nothing short of superb, but it's time to move on. They even say that it's always had the great bones, or the bones of a great game. I've always said similar things, that the game felt good. The guns felt good, but they just didn't know the game they wanted to build. They waffled on radar even before the game came out. They had a battle pass structure that was terrible, and they couldn't make updates to it quickly. They made a bunch of changes to movement where you couldn't take shortcuts and do these slide moves around the map, and then they quickly walked it back because everybody got really angry. It didn't really feel like they were owning the identity of the game and where they wanted to take it. They were just doing a lot of reaction. And I think that really hurt the core fans, or even would-be fans, to know, like, what kind of game are you trying to build? And I believe it ended up driving some people away. But they do touch on the launch here. The problem is Halo Infinite started with a stumble, and a big one at that. No Forge, no split-screen co-op, and a multiplayer that was severely lacking in content. Now, I'm glad they're willing to say this, because a lot of people have always told me there's like this rose-colored history with Halo Infinite. Oh, it launched great. They just didn't support it with live content. No, it didn't launch great. The multiplayer launched in a beta. The campaign was fine and got good scores, but the multiplayer was in a beta. They were missing Forge. There was no split-screen co-op for the campaign. There wasn't even online co-op for the campaign at launch. That's a staple of the Halo franchise. And then the multiplayer was missing playlists. There were playlists that didn't work for months, things that just did not operate properly. They were very slow to update anything, including even the Battle Pass feedback, which was negative before the game even came out, and they trudged ahead with it and then gave people XP per match from challenges, and then those challenges had diminishing returns of results, so you were better off playing a couple of games every day instead of if you could only play on a Saturday. Well, eventually you were going to be getting less XP than me if I played a couple of games Monday through Friday, and your best day to play 20-something games was on a Saturday. I would get more XP than you. It was just incredibly stupid. They didn't seem to know what they were doing, and it was very half-baked. So the idea that Halo Infinite launched in a great state and then was bad because they didn't support it with content, that is such a false history of the game, and you're not doing the game any favors by being dishonest about how the game launched. Even somebody who thinks highly of it is at least willing to say, listen, it didn't launch well, it was a stumble, and it was a big one at that, according to them, and they cite the reasons here. A lot of this has changed since then, but I always felt like the team couldn't shake this view from prospective players that it was missing something. Hopefully, whatever they're cooking next doesn't miss some of the core features that make Halo, well, Halo. And see, this is where I actually think you can retain core features to retain the identity of Halo without the need for it to look and feel like Halo. At this point, if it looks and feels like Halo, most people are going to think that it looks and feels like an old game. And you're going to lose them. They're never even going to try it. And I think that's why a reboot and significant evolution of the game is needed. You're welcome to disagree with me. I understand why you disagree with that. You're a huge fan of the franchise. You think that's a fool's errand. You feel like they've tried that before. I don't feel like they went far enough. That's my personal take. If you want to appeal to the broader audience, it's time to make some pretty significant changes. Now, the article goes on to say that Gerard does also mention that Microsoft is hiring for a number of 343 roles, and while none of them are strictly new, we do get a little bit of info. For example, 343 says we are looking for new Spartans to join our team to build the next generation of games and experiences in our award-winning sci-fi universe. In a lead game designer job ad, it doesn't say too much, but it's another confirmation that 343 is starting to look forward after Infinite. This also means that the hiring freeze is over, okay? They went through a bit of a hiring freeze after the layoffs and after they had Joseph Staten move to somewhere else within Microsoft, and they brought in Pierre, the guy that fixed the Master Chief Collection. And everybody was pretty, excited that, he's going to be able to turn things around. He certainly put things into a better place. I think people are going to do some of that rose-colored revisionist history, and they're going to look back fondly on Halo Infinite and be like, just when things got good, just when they fixed the game, they canceled it. And I resonate with those people, right? You've been faithful to the game, you've stuck by it, you've played, you've provided feedback, and when they finally get some good seasons out, they're like, yeah, no more seasons, we're moving on to greener pastures. But I have to agree that this is the right call. I agree with PC Games N. You've got to leave this game behind. That has too much baggage, right? There's too many things that are, I think, just going to continually keep it from growing and evolving to where it needs to be, which I do think lends credence to my argument. You can't just launch another Halo. You've got to evolve it. You've got to, I do. I think you got to soft reboot it. I know people are going to disagree, but in my opinion, if they move it to a new engine and it's just another Halo, with more maps and modes and another campaign, but it still just feels like Halo, well, I don't think it's going to pull in a lot of folks that are new. It'll only pull into folks that have loved Halo for a very long time. And that's not a bad thing, but it certainly isn't going to be a very big thing either. Now, there you have it. It seems to me like another page is turning in the story of Halo as a franchise, as well as the future of Halo Infinite, but that's just what I think. I'd love to know what you think. You can leave a comment below. If you click the join button and you select the member tier for $6, you can come to a segment that follows my premieres called The Writer's Room, where we plan our uploads and our shows, and you can help out with that. If you're not going to do a membership, hit subscribe, hit the bell button, so that way I can see you in the next video.